Hero Club presents Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu.
This is Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu, episode 56, I believe. I am your host, Wheelchair21, and joining me for the opening act is the Visible Ninja as usual. Visible Ninja, what are you doing this week?
Not a lot, just playing some games, working on some projects for, our little site here, and it's, been a good time.
Yeah, and even though I called you Visible Ninja, yes, he is Middle Ninja, but don't forget, names are hard to forget around here, especially when your name changes every 6 months, Ninja.
What can I say? I like rebranding myself after having existential crises.
But nevertheless, though, we have an interesting show for you tonight, as one, myself and Visible Ninja are going to just look a bit at the SDCC news and other Tokusatsu news that we saw. But we're going to save that news for the next episode, since we have people who want to talk about what was seen in general, because, well, we did have some Tokusatsu stuff, we did have some regular hero stuff, and overall, right now it's a time in, the Tokusatsu community where stuff's just very light, very quiet, and we're just getting ready to go to Power Morphicon, but nevertheless, myself and Visible Ninja and Soundout and our guest Darkon will be talking about the actual Kamen Rider Zio catalog, toy catalog in full depth, like we promised from last week, so that's part of our list this week. And for the rest of the list, for the news, we are just going to be talking about Ryu Ranger, a crossover with Street Fighter, not Ryu Ranger from Die Ranger, some Tamashii features exclusives coming this fall, as well as we are going to be talking about the recent release of the new Pandora panels, as well as the King of the Monsters trailer. So first off, let's just get down to it. We're going to talk about the Legacy Wars crossover. So, upcoming Street Fighter cross-promotion with Legacy Wars reveals that the game is going to feature Ryu, who's going to get himself an original Power Morpher that kind of turns him into a Dragon Ranger / Jetman hybrid known as Ryu Ranger. And that sounds kind of uncreative, but the suit itself looks fabulous, I gotta say, for this character design. What do you think, Visible Ninja?
Yeah, same here. I mean, when I first heard the name, I kind of got a chuckle out of it, because, Ryu Ranger. But yeah, I actually do like the suit. Yeah, I know some people aren't terribly happy with his design, saying it's too derivative, like you said, basically being like a mashup of a Jetman inspired design with MMPR Green or Dragon Ranger, whatever you want to call him. But I kind of like it, as well as the fact that his power coin is basically like a Hadoken, which is funny. But in the end, this is a non-canon, thing that's, through a crossover with a fighting game franchise. I don't see why people are getting, so uppity about it. Maybe it's because it's the name, where, there's Ryu Ranger and then there's, Ryu Ranger. You know what I mean? But ultimately, I think it's kind of cool, like a nifty little idea that, they're doing with the crossover with Street Fighter V. So I kind of like it, but, it's not going to go beyond, this, crossover in the game. So I'm not too, ruffled or getting excited over it. It's a cool thing, but,
Yeah, no, overall, like I said, I like its very, Dragon Ranger bird-esque kind of design. It's kind of Ryu-ish, especially, with a name like Ryu, which means kind of like dragon. And you also have Hadoken and flying attacks that are references, I think, to birds at times. So it could really work in tandem. Now, let's move on to the actual Tamashii Nations news. Now, we know that they're going to have 7 exclusives, but the 7th has not been announced. But 2 of these are actually Kamen Rider based, because usually every year there's at least a rider or 2 rider items. This year we're having the Shinchoko Seiho Kamen Rider Ichigo Sakurajima version, as well as the Kamen Rider Build Rabbit Tank Hazard Form for 6,480 yen. This event will be held on October 26th to the 28th in Japan. So, Visible Ninja, what are your thoughts on these two exclusives from Bandai?
Okay, I guess we'll start with Ichigo, since it's kind of cool that they're redoing the Sakurajima version, which is the second suit that Ichigo used, sorry, when he returned, after his long absence, because, our boy, Fukoa kind of broke his leg, doing a motorcycle stunt, but... Yeah, I've always kind of liked this version of the suit compared to the original one he wore, which is referred to these days as the old suit, or the Shin suit that he would use for like the majority of his appearances going forward. Up to the point where he got his new like super buff form, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, but it's definitely kind of cool. And of course, since it's a Seiho, it's going to have, very awesome articulation and everything. So it's pretty cool. And a pretty good idea for an event exclusive. Now, Rabbit Tank Hazard, I know, at least when this was kind of first unveiled, a lot of people were salty about it because, they want, a fig art of Rabbit Tank Hazard. And they were pissed that it's going to be an event exclusive.
But there's an ironic coincidence about almost every year, is that if it's a rider that's black, it's always going to be its exclusive.
Well,
this dates back all the way to Kamen Rider Double. You had Joker with O's. I forget what O's had. I don't think O's had a rider that year. I think it was actually another Tokusatsu character. Then Forza, they didn't have, I think, I'm trying to remember. It was, I think O's Forza they skipped over. Wizard, there was a character. Then you had, I think, what was it, Bloodgime. Then you had...
Bujingaime.
Bujingaime. You had Proto Drive. You had...
Yeah.
There wasn't one for Ghost either. So it's like every other year, it seems, that they try to get one of the black variants of either a character suit
and
or
last
a form.
year...
Because it was Gem.
And last year...
It was Gem.
It was Genmu, yeah.
And they also did Joker. Yeah, they did Joker again.
Yeah, Seiho Joker. So, yeah, so it's kind of cool. And again, it looks awesome, just like the suit. It looks cool. Again, some people, are a little salty that it's an event exclusive, which is going to make it more expensive to get on the secondary market, as opposed to if it was just a straight up like P Bandai release. But then again, like I said, as what happens every year, if you just like wait 6 months, all the event exclusive items will go up on P Bandai. They always do. With very few exceptions, they always go up on the web shop like 6 months after the event. So, like, if you're patient, you can get your Rabbit Tank Hazard. Like I said, it's a beautiful looking design and everything, but some people are just kind of salty.
Yeah, and that's the sure case. But I mean, it's not something we're not used to, that a Kamen Rider's, black form, his, proto forms, his alternate, doppelgangers at times are regulated as a Tamashii Fair exclusive. I mean, it happened with, the Black X-Aid Gemu. It happened with Joker twice, so it even happened with Proto Drive, so we're not used to it. So I just think that people were like, oh, this year will be the year, and then bada bing, bada boom, sucks to be you. So let's move on to another thing that's also black and white. Let's talk about the official images for the Kamen Rider Build Deluxe Last Pandora white and black panels with the DX Lost full bottles. Now, I'm not too up to date on the show to understand the true significance of the white and black panels, nor do I fully understand these lost bottles. I understand the lost bottles have something to do with the Smashes and Evolt himself, but I don't know the full depth of it. You can spoil me if you want explaining it to me, but the price of this set is... Well, let me just finish the price first.
Okay, sorry.
The price of this set is 8,640 yen, so if you want to explain what it is for the audience at home who may not be up to date with Build.
As far as I've seen, because I have not seen the most recent episode as of this recording, is basically the white panel has yet to appear, but Evolt is creating the black panel with the lost bottles. And essentially, you need, like, the black panel to basically make Evil all powerful is kind of what it comes down to, and world go boom. So yeah. So that's about all there is to it, and now we do have different releases of all the various panels, because you got like the regular panel, which is the gray one. Then of course you got blue, you got red. Now you're gonna have black and white. So really, if you got 2 normal panels and 1 each of the others, you could make the full box. Like I'm kind of glad that they actually did bother to actually kind of do that, because usually something like this either doesn't get released at all, or it does, but it's only like a single part will. Because like early on, it looked like that only like the first panel was going to get released, even though it was obvious since it's a cube. It's made up of 6 sides. But of course, we've since got the other ones, and so it's kind of awesome. I mean, we've got storage things before, like the metal holder and the Astro Switch rack or whatever it was called, but
and they all suck, just like the Pandora panels, unfortunately.
Basically. Because ultimately, that's all they are, is just a storage solution. The only difference is this time it has relevance in the show. But, it's still, a fancy, storage solution for all your, ever-growing amount of, lost bottles, full bottles, Evil bottles, whatever. But yeah, it'll be nice that, you can finally make a very beautiful cube.
Alright, and the last news, we're just going to lightly touch upon the Godzilla trailer, just because we want to be sort of, up to date with our current events. However, we will be fully addressing the entire trailer with the majority of our podcasts, for whomever decides to show up during that recording specifically. But yeah, Godzilla trailer, we got to actually see the actual monsters in this trailer, unlike Legendary's first outing with the kaiju in their trailer, where he kind of wasn't there. So Visible Ninja, just a little teaser taste of your thoughts on this trailer.
All right, a very, very brief, very abridged version, because like I said, we're going to go like way in depth later, I thought, like I said, it was a damn good trailer. Far better than any of the trailers for 2014's Godzilla. And honestly, like I said, the internet's kind of buzzing about it, because it showed off, the other than Godzilla, kind of, the big 3. We got to see, not, full on images, but we got to see a bit of Mothra, both, larva and the imago. We got to see, Rodan, coming out of a volcano and destroying shit, which was actually kind of awesome. And then, of course, we finally got the big reveal of Ghidorah. So that's cool, as well as the kind of a brief look at the new kind of updated look for Godzilla, since he's still more or less the same design he was last time. But again, we'll go deeper into that later. But again, the short version, I thought it was a damn fine trailer. Definitely, getting me kind of pumped, in light of other news that we've heard. And you know what? I May can't come fast enough.
All right. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, Visible Ninja. I think it turned out really good. I think it turned out really unique and great and awesome. Honestly, the fact, though, like I said, even when I addressed this trailer, we got all 4, which is good. We got other news we'll talk about in our next episode, and I'm really looking forward to this Godzilla movie. It feels like a Godzilla movie, and it also feels like the works of fiction released throughout the 90s with the Saraceni books, as well as other issues, whether it be Dark Horse Comics or even Matt Frank's run with Rulers of the Earth or the other IDW publishings. So overall, I think we're going to have one interesting Godzilla film that meets the expectations of the fans as well as the casual audience. Now, Lesto, let's go over to the Kamen Rider Zeo toy catalog, and we're going to actually let Soundout host this segment. Let's just hope he doesn't make a mess out of this episode.
Let's hope.
All right, everyone, and welcome back to the Soundcast. Today we'll be discussing Kamen Rider Zeo. With me today is several members of the Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu podcast, and that would be starting with Wheelchair 21.
This is a bad way to segue into this segment. You're a
What
monster.
are you talking about? This is the Soundcast.
No, this is still Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. We just segued into this moment.
This is the Soundcast, which is now ingrained itself in Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu.
No, this is just Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu.
Featuring the Soundcast.
More like featuring Soundout.
Featuring the Soundcast.
Hey, next you're gonna say it's called featuring Ninja Talks Live.
It is also a Ninja Talks Live episode.
That's not
Good
live.
sir, it is Metal Talks Live now. Mm-hmm.
It is also a Darkon 633 Onslaught Productions review.
And he's dead.
Or he's on mute and doesn't realize it. Anyways, how about we talk about Kamen Rider Zio? Where should we begin? Should we do this in release date order, or should we just do groupings of images, or should we hit the wild card and randomly select images to throw all of my co-hosts off?
Probably let's just go into the technical release order and batches, or whatever proxy we need to go with, because let's just go in the order in which stuff came out.
Alright, so we're going to do this exactly how we do it on the Soundcast, despite this apparently not being the Soundcast, like was promised in my contract.
It was
We need to
not
go
promised in the
later.
contract. It was more or less, I was like, so Soundout, I just stole this idea from that podcast we did on your show, so we're doing it on Los Ingobernables, because there's just so much content to talk about in this toy catalog.
And I didn't want to edit this, so here we are. Alright, so let's take a look at our new Kamen Rider. We're going to begin at our look at the cover image for the catalog, because that gives us a great indication of what the series is going to look like with the actual suits. Looking at toys aside, we're going to look at Kamen Rider Zio and Kamen Rider Getsu. Now, these two writers are going to be the primary writers for the series, but it does seem like Kamen Rider Getsu is going to be definitely secondary and does not have as many forms as Kamen Rider Zio. Now, while we can't comment on whether or not Zio is actually female, like certain rumors have stated, because there's no indication of this in the catalog whatsoever, what we can look at from the designs here is that we have a very bright-colored rider and a very dark-colored rider, and they look very much like a AM and PM versions of a clock. So overall, personally speaking, I think that I really like the look of Zio. I'm not as big of a fan of Getsu, but I definitely like the overall aesthetic of this series. So I'm going to pass it to Wheelchair. What do you think of the suits?
Alright, as we loosely spoke about on last week's podcast with me, Invisible Ninja, in the opening segment, I think that the suits are quite badass and elegant, mostly when it comes to Zio or Zio, due to the fact it has a weird reminiscent vibe of a fusion between Ghost and Wizard, where, in this case, Wizard's no longer a ring, he is now a watch. And it does have a little bit of a trend of, like, Deno's train tracks when you have the actual watch wristband in the breastplate, which you can see all the way from the breastplate down to his crotch as, like, a cup protector. And then you see, like, these weird, holders throughout his body that hold the gimmick of the series, which looks really nice. Whereas Gates, while he is a nice black and red rider, he does look a lot different, and it does stand out a lot more now that he is an individual writer than being just the rumored PM from. And there goes the entire episode.
What?
Product, you just cut into the recording of the podcast.
Wait. Oh, you guys actually weren't recording.
Yeah, we're actually...
Yes, it's the Soundcast.
No, this is Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu.
Never heard of it.
Ha. We're talking about Gio and Gates' stuff right now.
Zio and Getsu.
Oh, fantastic. So what cool stuff is coming?
Product, if I was you, I would open up the links on HeroClub.com as well as the stuff in the Skype chat to get up to date, and we'll alert you more.
Why don't I get to hear the entire episode from scratch tomorrow when it goes up?
It's not going to go up tomorrow. It goes up on Saturdays.
You know
We
what?
should totally leave this part in. This is too funny.
Oh, Wheels, the podcast is going to go up anyway. Doesn't matter. I'll listen
A
to it
wild
there.
Project RDM appeared. Quick, throw a Master Ball.
Heh, that's not good enough.
Okay, well, let's pass the ball over to Visible Ninja.
Yay! That writer, yo. Yeah, I don't... I'm not gonna, debate or elaborate on the whole, male-female thing, but... I gotta say, I like these suits more than I thought they would when I, heard about the whole clock/watch motif. I thought it would turn out far worse than it did. So, kudos on that. I was kind of hoping for an AM/PM mode kind of thing, but they're two different riders, so I can live with that.
So, question, because I like asking a question when you don't have a long enough statement. So, question, do you think that by having 2 riders up front means we're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6 riders in this series?
I'm thinking about though. There's gonna be at least 7, or maybe Gaim. Not as much as Gaim, but it's gonna be up there.
Yeah, we're not gonna go. Yeah, we're not going Gaim Ryuki levels here, but maybe 1 or 2 more wouldn't surprise me.
I'm gonna say 6, guys. 6. 3 good ones and 3 possible evil ones.
Ooh, tasty.
Sounds good. Pass it off to Darkon. What do you think of Gio and Getsu?
Oh wait, Darkon's here. Holy crap! Everybody's here. Amazing.
Yeah, I know. The main five arrived.
Well, anyways, for Zeo suit, I think I actually really like it, and it's actually something that's kind of a breath of fresh air, because even though I liked a lot of the suits that have been happening, for once we actually have a suit that's not extremely busy for the main form. It's okay having more complicated forms afterwards, but in the base form we're having a little bit too busy suits that we're having recently for the big form. Even Build's kind of quite busy when you look at it, but this is a lot more streamlined, so I actually really like it. As for Gates, I like it though. It reminds me too much of that Bima X Indonesian Tokusatsu though, way too much.
Yo, dude, I thought I saw the parallels, but yeah, he does look like Bima Satria Garuda.
Why does Zeo look like if Decayed, Wizard, and somebody else had a baby?
Because he is. He is.
I mean, fantastic.
Yeah, the Gio suit looks just like a fusion of those, which really works for a rider that's supposed to be having powers of past riders. Speaking of which, I think we should transition to our next look, which is at the Jiku Driver. This is coming out in September for 7,500 yen. I haven't bought rider belts in a few years. I don't know if that's lower or higher, but it includes Gio's henshin device known as the Gio Ride Watch. The Ride Watches are the gimmicks for the year. Now, the thing is much like the Gashats of recent time, these will have their own contained electronics, but they do work on the slider system that the full bottles and the VS vehicles work on. So it seems like it's going to have electronics mixing with the belt's electronics, which may be why we have a 7,500 yen belt. Now, going alongside of this, we have the Ride Watch for Getsu, which is being sold separately, I believe, for 1,500 yen. So that's going to be our standard price for Ride Watches. And we also will have the Ride Watch holder, which is the wristwatch look that both Gio and Getsu have on their arms. That is going to be released for 3,000 yen, and it includes the Ghost Ride Watch. So you're really paying 1,500 yen for the actual holder, but you're also getting the Ghost. There will be a set of the Jiku Driver and the Ride Watch holder, which will contain Gio and Ghost Ride Watches for 10,500 yen. Also, on this side image, we can start seeing some of the other Ride Watches being released. We have the Build Ride Watch releasing in August. We have the Xade Ride Watch, which is coming out in September. The Drive Ride Watch coming out also in September. And, of course, the Ghost Ride Watch, which comes with the Ride Watch holder. We also get to see the first looks at the forms. So we have Gio Build Armor, Gio Xade Armor, Getsu Ghost Armor, Getsu Drive Armor. So this is kind of a catch-all of here's your belt, here's your first gimmicks, here's your first forms. I'm going to pass it off to Wheelchair.
Alright, so first off, I'm not gonna lie, I really do love this hourglass stopwatch system that the driver's built on, and its little actual clock time ticker to tell you what year you're in. I think it's actually one of the more interesting aspects about this belt in a long-ass time, and the fact that it combines elements of, say, your lock seeds and gash hats with your full bottles and your shift cars is immaculate. This may be actually the first driver for me to actually naturally purchase that wasn't in like an eBay lot that I then flipped in maybe 2 or 3 years, since I skipped, Ghost, Gamer Driver directly, and the actual build driver, so this will be like, in 3 years, the first driver I might actually get. I like the concept, like I said, that it is a hourglass, like you have to actually spin it to, like, I guess, charge up the attacks, and depending on how you spin it and how you flip it, you'll have to insert either your main henshin one, which is your Zio and Gates one on the one side, and then on the opposite side you put in your Legend Rider switch. Like, I'm kind of hoping, since I haven't seen a good close-up of Gates's version of his belt, I'm hoping that since he's supposed to be allegedly from the future, he puts his medallion on the opposite side, and then puts all the Legend Rider ones on the side that we see Gio's at. But if I get a clearer close-up of it, I'm guessing it's probably just going to be the same side, so whatever rider you're turning into has to be automatically on your right, and whichever armor
It is
time.
on the right.
Yeah, so I'm guessing it's always,
But
if you henshin, it has to be
There
right.
is a difference.
Yada, yada, yada.
It's on the right, but the time clock is yellow instead of pink.
So we're guessing that the LED lights are going to change then, at least within the driver, depending on what one you put in there to henshin with, most likely.
I did forget to mention, the driver actually shows the date of the Kamen Rider form being used. For example, for basic Gio, it's 2018. You put in build, it switches to 2017. There's also a stopwatch-like button at the top of the driver that will probably factor into that time change.
But yeah, no, overall, like I say, the gimmick of the belt and the actual gimmick makes sense for once. Will it be super collective and cool? I don't know just yet. I think the armors, like we see here, the little teaser of their upper torso, will hook and make people want to invest into the gimmick, but until we actually see how they work individually as well as in tandem, will be that huge deficit on if, I'm going to pre-order it or try to get it later when it's on one of those, like, Golden Week sales or whatnot.
All right, Visible Ninja, what do you think of the Jiku driver and first ride watches?
I never thought they could make a watch-based driver look this good. It is expensive, but if both the watches and the driver have electronics, that makes perfect sense, because there's going to be a lot going on here. So that's actually going to be hella interesting, and you gotta love how they prominently have the ride watch holders, very gigantic on their forearms, which is actually kind of funny, since most of the holder mechanisms are just like little like belt clips or things that just kind of hang there out of the way usually, whereas these ones are like smack dab right on the forearms, which I think is kind of funny. And the fact that it comes with the ghost, yeah. And that, Gates is getting his sold separately, not with an item. So that does intrigue me somewhat. But yeah, like the individual ride watches, again, nothing really surprises me. Kind of follows the typical kind of thing these days, like how some kind of a trinket from the next series will premiere like the month before the series starts. Like in this case, like during the final episodes of Build, the Build ride watch will be out there, just like they did with, Shakuriki Sports, or the, Gorilla Diamond, I think?
Yes.
Yeah. Basically, yeah, it's, like, it'll be available the month before, just to kind of, so people can get one in their hands and just kind of fiddle with it and everything, you know what I mean? And then, obviously, the other ride watches look pretty cool, and looking at some of these forms, it's just kind of interesting how one rider will look a bit different, whether it's used by Gio or Gates. Because looking at the Gates and the Gio versions of Ghost, they're obviously like supposed to be like similar armors, but there are some differences. Like obviously the difference in the head design, as well as the fact that Gio, has the watch band and Gates doesn't.
I was gonna say you could hold that till we get to the next part, because that's a little later with the scans.
You know what? I retract that.
You don't need to retract.
It's interesting.
I'm just saying we can just, talk more about it when we get there.
Okay. Anyways, other ride watches look pretty cool. Very appropriate. Faizu. Must get Faizu. But yes.
Passing it off to Darkon.
I'm liking the gimmick this season. I'm actually at this point kind of more afraid about how the toy will actually work, seeing as Bandai Japan's been kind of iffy with their products, especially with Build now. I'm a little bit more if having maybe some complications, being a little bit too complicated, sounds not syncing up, like it's just everything else kind of adding up because of all the problems they've been having with the recent products. Another thing though is that when this thing gets hacked, it's going to be a party, because we don't know what's going to happen with this one. It's going to be total madness, especially with the whole LED system and everything and all that. When it gets hacked, it's going to be like one of the most crazy events, I think, when it comes to the roleplay stuff. I actually do feel sorry for the actors who needs to have those giant watch pieces on their wrists, because it's probably going to be extremely comfortable in a lot of scenes, especially when they're fighting. And I'm actually going to be really surprised how they're able to keep them on it. In some scenes, maybe if they decided to use a toy, because I doubt they're actually going to make suits of every last one of the actual watches for a particular suit. Obviously, they most likely are going to use the toy in a few scenes. But like I said, I'm just going to be surprised how those things won't fling around. It's already kind of a problem when it comes to the side holder ones, but since they're on their arms, especially when they started punching and everything and all that, it's just going to be kind of weird how they're going to keep those on their wrists, to be honest, I think. I don't know yet because it hasn't happened yet, but I do like the gimmick. It actually reminds me of the Vice Axle watch, but instead of the actual being on an actual wrist, now it's actually on the belt itself. So I think I do like when it comes to gimmicks when it has like a stopwatch motif on the actual gimmick. It is funny that Pogs were out of date, so I don't know why they're back. I'm just saying, they remind me of Pogs a little bit too much. And I do like the suits. The suits associated with them, bland, like as much as we've seen like the Guy Change series, a lot of those suits are also kind of generic when you really look at it. So it's nice to actually have a little bit more creativity in the way that they're using past writers for their suits. So I think that's about it for this section, but I think it's going to turn out to be a pretty cool season.
Cool. Project still here?
Oh yeah, I'm still here. That suit looks amazing, by the way. I don't know. We'll see how it goes in actual combat when they actually do the stunt work, but I'm interested.
All right, so we're going to jump forward now, and we're going to take a little bit closer look. We're going to be jumping to the scan that features the Gatesu Ride Watch and the Ride Watch holder. And I'm going to kind of go from here. So this one, as we can see in the scan, we actually get a closer up look at the Gatesu Ride Watch and how it is different than the Geo watch. And I do think it looks really cool. As mentioned previously, the time changes to yellow numbers instead of pink. So there's a difference there. What's interesting as well is that it does show that there is the set of the Jiku driver and the ride watch holder, but it shows the Gatesu ride watch instead of the Ghosto one. So I would say that there's a possibility that Ghost and Gates come in the set, but I can't say that for sure. There's part of the scan that has been blanked out. And we can also see the ride watch holder a little bit closer, and the Ghost ride watch, as well as on the bottom of the scan we can see the build form for Geo being used, where the time changes, as well as the left-hand ride watch. Jumping to the next scan, we're going to take a look at the weapon, the main weapon for Geo, which is known as the let's see if I can find the name. The oh boy,
Jikon Grade.
It's got a full name. The Jikawa Juken Deluxe Jikon Gleidu. This is a 4,000 yen main weapon. It has a gun mode and a sword mode, therefore making it like every single Rider weapon for the last like 5 years, 6 years, 7, since Wizard. Since Wizard, we basically had a sword gun, or a sword and a gun. But this is a 2-in-1, pretty basic design. Doesn't come with any ride watches, so it is a little bit cheaper of a weapon. This also means that, once again, this has been a common thread with Rider lately, you don't have to buy a weapon to get transformation devices, which I think is great. I actually, I see people getting the ride watch holder to get Ghost, but you don't have to buy the weapons, and I'm appreciating that trend, because buying weapons, especially when you live overseas, sucks due to shipping costs. So we'll go one more scan right over, take a look at the last couple weapons here. So, the Jikon Glade is coming out in September. The Jikon Jin Ono Deluxe Jikon Zaksu is a Jikon axe for Kamen Rider Gaitsu. It is a bow and arrow type weapon that folds into an axe. Probably one of the more unique weapons we've actually seen in Rider. It has sounds like you, me, and oh no, so that's going to be fun. We also see that what is presumably the mid-season power-up for Gio, which is the Kamen Rider Decade Ride Watch. Now, the Decade Ride Watch is scheduled for a, let's see, double-checking the information.
December
release. It's 2,800 yen, because this ride watch is different than the other ones. The other ones are just a single ride watch. This is a ride watch that also contains another slider track on it, which means you're going to have 3 ride watches plugged into the belt at once. And what Decade's ride watch can do, unlike any other ride watch, is it changes the helmet to another rider. So what you get is special attacks. So basically, you get Gio, and you get Decade, and then you get Build, and now you have Gio Decade Armor Build form, which sounds really complicated, but also sounds really cool because, according to the scan, it's going to have the repeating starting letter sound that the Decade driver had for final form rides and final attack rides. So that is looking pretty unique, and then corresponding with that, we have another weapon, which is the Chohari Kaiten Ken Deluxe Heisei, which uses the powers of the different Heisei riders. It's 4,000 yen, also does not come with a ride watch, but works with the Gio and Decade ride watches. So, we're going to be discussing the Heisei, which I think is the best pun ever, the Decade ride watch, the Jiku Axe, the Jiku Glaive, and I think if you want to talk anything else on Gaitsu's ride watch or the ride watch holder, have at it. Passing it off to Wheelchair.
Alright, first off, so I do believe that we're going to end up having a set where you do have Gates, Zio, and the holder with the Ghost watch all together. Like, I don't think they would cut out just a watch with the holder set, but they could be crazy like that because they want you to have 2 holders. Think about that, because the show does show that there's a holder on one arm and a holder on the left arm. So that's kind of a thing. So they're probably
and 2 riders that use the same holder.
Exactly, so they want you to maybe try to buy a huge quantity of those. So that's a smart idea. One thing I do really like is how the sword kind of transforms and reminds me of actually the double Luna Trigger Magnum or the actual Skull Magnum or the Bomb Magnum, like how it turns into gun form. So I actually like that element because it's one of the few weapons I really did love from Kamen Rider Double. I love the Magnums because they were a nice, sleek design, but then it also becomes like a nice little scabbard blade, but in the show it's going to be, one long-ass SOB, like a really elegant sword. As for Gates' axe bow, so we know the bow is probably going to be a lot larger on screen as well as its axe form, but it's still kind of a cool weapon if it's still maybe like old school Kaku Ranger arm-mounted one, because it looks like it could be like one of the old Kaku Ranger, Kaku Curry weapons or whatever they were called, that they mounted to their arms or held by their arms. So I hope that's maybe what really is going on, and the little, hatchet kind of thing that it becomes also looks like it could double as a gun, too, while being still an axe. However, I really want to talk about the Heisei Saber and the Deca Ride Watch. When I saw that, I was like, this is one of the smartest ideas ever, because if your new rider, Gio, is supposed to, in a sense, be from Heisei Phase 2 back to Heisei Phase 1, as well as the whole conglomerate of the Heisei era, you should make your mid-season form or your final form be akin to the original Legend Rider, which is Decade. And it makes so much sense to have his mid-season form or his final form be linked to Decade. It's the only way you could do it and make it right, and to have a nice little awesome, reuse of the Ninja's, weapon as now, his main weapon. Smart move, because, since the Ninja sucked, they had to get rid of the mold somehow. Come on, guys. The Heisei Saber is the Ninja Banto. Come on. Think about it. It's literally
either that, or you realize that the ride watch holder is a variation of the belt release for Ninja.
Like, seriously, look, when I see that, I'm just sitting there like, yo, are we sure this isn't just them reusing parts from the failed Ninja toy line just so they can make a rider out of it? Like, Maybe. Who knows?
I mean, cannibalizing ideas from Sentai to use for Rider has been a thing TaJa's been doing for decades, so, you know.
So yeah, no, that's all I can say for now, really.
Cool. I'll pass it to Visible Ninja.
Yay, well, it's a sword and it's a gun. It is a gun sword. Wow, it's, a completely original idea we've never seen before. Well, that said, though, it doesn't look horrible, so there's that. Definitely more interested in Gates's, 2-in-1 weapon. It does look more interesting, to me personally. Oh, God, and Decade. Crazy Decade. And let's face it, it's not going to be a mid-season power-up. It's just going to be a power-up, these days. Johnny Bandai these days.
Anymore?
What is a mid-season? What's a mid-season power-up anymore? But it is going to be an interesting power-up since it's a ride watch that kind of co-opts other ride watches. So
does it remind you of the Genesis core being used with the Sengoku driver?
It kind of does, actually. only if you stuck another lock seed on the edge of that, because it's oh, you got your main one, then you got your rider one, then your rider one also has a rider one on it, so...
Yo, dog, I heard you like Kamen Rider, so I put a Kamen Rider in your Kamen Rider.
Kamen Rider.
This almost feels more like a Sega 32X CD than X8 ever got to.
Holy shit, yeah. You're right.
Weird, yeah. I'm kind of interested to see how this all works with the Decade armor. And the Hay Saber, like I said, that is a perfect name if I ever heard one. And yeah, I'm pretty sure it is just the Ninja Ichibanto, just with, the mold reworked, to have the watch motif. But
just like the Dokyu Blaster was kind of like the Wizard Sword Gun.
Basically, yeah. But you know what? I love the look of it. And it looks awesome.
The Ninja Ichibanto was a fun toy, so the Hay Saber should be pretty great.
Hey, don't forget, it has one of the greatest henshin sequences, or should I say henshin sounds ever.
Yeah, unlike a lame, shift star weapon, Ninja Steel.
I forgot that shit existed.
Yeah.
Alright, Darkon, what do you think of Decado, Hay Saber, Shikyu Glaive, Jiku Axe?
Okay, as for the Jiku Blade, I will say one thing. I can't wait to see, similar to what we had with the Metal Joliver, every single figure coming with that stupid sword. I already see that happening. Second, why do I see the Chozet's brace here? Chozet's brace. I'm sorry. The second I saw that scan, I was like, why is the Chozet's brace? It looks just like it. Instead, this time,
the brace part without the shuriken on it. Yes.
Instead, you're attaching it to a belt instead of holding on as a wrist gauntlet. So, I don't know. That's weird. The Hay Saber, I mean, I guess it could... I don't know. It's going to be kind of hilarious. I do really like the idea of weapon. I mean, I did kind of like the comic sword that we had at build, but I think this is going to be a better weapon. As for, what was the axe weapon called again?
The Jiku Axe.
Alright, the Jiku Axe. Yeah, I think that's going to be a very interesting weapon, although obviously it's going to be ridiculously huge at the rate we're going, unless they decide to go with the Gentoku Raden, and look, why is he using the deluxe toy? It looks so tiny. They're not even making a prop for it. He's just using the toy. It looks so out of scale because instead of doing a prop, they just went with a toy for pretty much the entire series, so... It's gonna be very interesting though, but yeah, overall designs I think it's good. I do like this time when it comes to gun swords, things like the wizard sword, it's very similar to that how the way it forms. I actually like those kind of style swords in a bit more than some of the other ones that just turn to a gun and sword. Unfortunately, while I like the Ride Booker for what it does, I don't know. When you think about it, it doesn't really work, especially because of the whole mass shifting that it has to do. So, it's a cool concept, but obviously it cannot be translated whatsoever correctly onto a toy because they're not going to make it as big. Not going to work.
I can confirm that the Ride Booker is not a fun toy.
It's a fun gun, but it's not a fun sword.
It is a gun blade, not a gun sword. I don't know what you guys are talking about, what shenanigans this is. It's a gun blade.
No, it's more like a gun knife.
Oh, so if I pull the trigger when it hits, I get extra damage.
Damn
Yes.
right. If you're the R trigger, that's right.
Anything else, Darkon?
I think that's about it. It's just really just about the weapons so far. But it's really the Chozet's brace that I just couldn't stop looking at, though.
Maybe that's why I love it so much.
Yo, it's kind of funny,
So-
though, because, like, ironically enough, Visible Ninja and I, when we were first addressing it on last week's episode during the news segment, roughly, we kept saying, so I'm going to bet that Darkon, myself, and Soundout keep making Ben 10 references, but now we're just making the Ninja references.
Why? You should have just gone with the Ben 10 references, guys. At least it's relevant.
Projekt guy comments on weapons?
They look cool, so we'll see how much money. Let's see how much my wallet will love me when these toys come out.
All right, let's move along. We have a scan here that shows some various Legend Rider ride watches. Releasing in August, Build Ride Watch. We already talked about that. September, Ghost Drive X-Aid. Now we get into some exciting territory where we get our first looks at Den-O, Kiva, Blade, and O's. O's in particular, I see very much a hint of the form being Super TaJa based, but more on that in a bit. We also see that after a brief absence, Buddy Gadgets are back. We haven't had Buddy Gadgets in a while. I think since Ghost. I don't remember X-Aid having any.
Ghost and Wizard had them.
Yes. Forza had them too.
Yep.
So did O's and Double. And Hibiki. But anyways, we haven't had them in a while because X-Aid didn't have any. Build had just the Claws Dragon, which was a transformation device, so that doesn't count. But what's cool about these is they're based on past gadgets. So the first one we have is the Deluxe Fize Phone X, because just like Apple, Fize decided X is cooler than putting 10 on something.
You know what the irony, though, about this is? Is that it's the Fize watch fused with the Morphine Blaster.
Basically, it turns from a watch into a phone into a gun, which is really cool. I don't think it connects to the belt, but then again, you never know. They don't show it here. I think it just transforms. The second thing, and that's releasing in October, we also have the TaJa Watch Droid, which is like the TaJa Can Droid fused with a ride watch, which is pretty cool. That's also October. And then the last one in November is going to be the Deluxe Kodama Suica Arms, which is based on the Suica Arms from Gaim, and it turns into a watch. I think the best looking one of these is the Fize Phone X because it has 3 modes. But the other two, they transform from one mode to the other. Moving along to the next scan, also in September is going to be the Ryuki and Fize watches. Actually, should mention this now. Real quick, backing up, Den-O actually does not come, is not sold separately as the others. Den-O is actually sold with another item we'll talk about in a minute. But Den-O is for Geo, Kiva is for Getsu, Blade is for Geo, and O's is for Geo. Then we move along to Ryuki for Geo, Fize for Gates, and then October we have Forza for Geo, Kabuto for Geo, Hibiki for Geo, Wizard for Gates, Agito for Geo, Gaim for Geo. Then in December we have Kuga for Geo, Double for Geo. So it very much seems like Gates only has a handful of forms compared to Geo. And the last item down here is, what is this called? This is the weird thing I can't figure out. Oh, it's in September. Give me a second here. Okay, so we have the Ride Watch Dizer and Den-O Ride Watch. The Ride Watch Dizer is described as the device stacking watches that comes with the Ride Watch for Den-O. When you use the DQ driver, it gives the user Den-O armor. So what it is that it seems like this is a carrying case for ride watches, is that you can basically put one ride watch or 2 ride watches in a little box, and then you can attach more boxes onto it to get kind of a stack. This very much
So it's like
seems
those
like
actual professional watch carriers where it's like in a tower.
Basically, yes. And so the Ride Watch Dizer and Den-O Ride Watch will be 4,000 yen, and the Ride Watch Dizer extension parts will be 2,500. So this is going to be similar to the Pandora panels for Build, where you would get a piece of something and a bottle. Now with Build, you had to buy 3 panels twice to make the whole Pandora panel. which means you came up with a second set of those 3 bottles. Here, you'll be able to just buy extenders for the dizer as needed is individual releases. So let's talk about the Heisei Rider ride watches, the ride extra ride watch mecha guy, the buddy gadgets, and the dizer. So have at it, Wheelchair.
All right, first off, so we have an assortment of all of your riders from Kuga to now, which means we are going to see probably a variety of like 20 freaking riders in the show, and it's going to be great, it's going to be awesome, and I'm not going to touch directly on the questionable O Super Tato Ba form because it works with the rider's bike, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the buddy gadgets, one thing I really do like is, like I addressed a little earlier, is that the Fize Phone X looks like they literally took like the Fize watch, fused it together with the original like Fize phone, but then fused it also with the Morphine Blaster, because it has a lot of bulk to it, but in reality it might be actually a lot smaller, because it may actually attach to the belt to unlock a form or an ability or a power-up or attaches to another weapon to give it some kind of, extra bonus. But the one thing that I find funny is, if this is somehow an additional power-up next to the regular Fize itself, because I think there's actually a regular Fize watch as well, I would laugh my ass off if it gave them, like, Fize Axle Mode ability, and if that is the case, it needs to be introduced into the show like the original Fize Axle Watch by it just being doinked in the head, and him looking and wondering what the hell hit him, then looking down, seeing the device, and Keixa's like, "You're supposed to put that on and use it, idiot." Like, I would die laughing if, like, this show actually does time travel, and then out of nowhere, Keixa hits him in the head, like, they actually get the actor back, throw it at him again. I would die.
It wouldn't be too hard. He's been all around Sentai.
Yeah,
lately.
no, but that's what I'm saying, is, like, if they bring him back to do the gag all over again, I would be hysterical, because that's one of my favorite upgrades in Rider lore. Just its debut is just gets thrown at you, and you're like, what am I supposed to do? You're supposed to henshin with it, you idiot. And that's literally how Fize Axle form debuted. The TaJa Can droid watch thing, I think it's actually really unique and really cool, and I really do like the design, even though I know can droids weren't really a thing after, like, TaJa was introduced. Like, people liked some of them, or they hated them all, but I think that's cool. Seeing Suika, I wonder if it has anything to do with the rider bike or machine by any chance. Like, will this be a piece that also works with that device when we talk about that in a moment? As for the actual carry case, thank you, frickin' Bandai, for realizing your mistakes with the Pandora panel. You are now actually going to just sell a version without the actual gimmick, so people don't feel like it's a waste of time. So now you can go into the store, be like, I need one regular version with the actual Den-O watch, and I'll take the, I guess, special, non-gimmicky version or whatever. I guess you would say the deluxe one in the standard edition. You can walk out with 2 cases, or you could walk out with 4 cases, or how many you frickin' want. But I like the style. As for the fact that certain watches are going to be mostly Geo-oriented, makes sort of a little bit of sense, but you would kind of think that it wouldn't be as numerous as it really is. Like, I would have thought it would be like 60-40, not 70-30. Like, I would have thought 60-40, not 70-30, or 80-20, like it seems. But that's neither here or there. But, like, right now, I'm looking forward to, like, the aesthetic.
Cool. Visible Ninja, what do you think of White Watches?
Yay. Not too much to say, really, about the individual rider watches. I mean, they have the faces of previous riders on them, and they have kind of the overall color motif of that rider. Not a whole lot to say there. Kind of standard thing we've seen with Legend Rider, items in the past. So there's, not really a whole lot new there. When it comes to the gadgets, yeah, this is where things kind of got interesting, because we got the return of Candroids, which, like Wheelchair said, were kind of a love them or hate them. I actually kind of like them, especially Unagi and Kujaku, but you know what? Hey, whatever. Taco was cool too, but yeah, the Fize phone, definitely the most interesting, since it is a triple changer, and the mini Suika arms is also kind of has its own little charm too. And yeah, actually giving you a display option where you could just buy a cheaper like add-on parts that you can just keep going and going and going. It's actually a good idea. And the whole display thing, like Wheelchair 21 touched on earlier, is reminiscent of actual like watch displays. So again, it just makes sense.
All right, Darkon, what do you think?
So far, I think it's nice to see all these gimmick things, except one thing that is going to be very scary is can't wait to see all those pull tabs being lost in nowhere, and then you find out that the batteries go away in like 3 months. I'm just saying. It happens every time, and it's been getting worse every year with the pull tabs with no on and off switches on these things, so you're just going to end up draining the battery just keeping it on the shelf. As for the gadget stuff, actually having a Fies axle, the deluxe one, the actual just the Fies, not Fies axle, the Fies belt, I actually don't really like the shape of this thing. I think it looks kind of ridiculous. I understand what it does because it's supposed to be transferring into one or the other, but I personally don't really like that one too much. The TaJa one's fine, but seeing as I already have a TaJa Android, it doesn't really do much for me. And while the Suica arms is cool, this just doesn't look that appealing, to be honest. Like, it's just like a giant ball with legs and arms. It just looks really weird. Like,
So
I know
what
the
you're
Suica
saying,
arms kind
it
of like
reminds you of Visible Ninja.
Play nice.
As for the little storage thing, when I saw that, it reminded me of the Ninja Steel communicator. It's got the exact same shape, except it doesn't open up and have like a CG'd.
Okay, guys, I'm putting us on sabbatical. We cannot keep making Ninja or Ninja Steel references the whole episode.
No, that's what's gonna end up happening. It's gonna happen.
I mean, these things are basically Ninja Power Stars, except they have Kamen Riders, so they're more interesting. But anyways,
yeah, it's still nice that they actually gave you a way to store them and everything. As for the giant mecha, that's very weird. Like, it's nice that they're having the whole.
We didn't get there yet.
I thought we did.
No.
Nope.
I said we'll address it in a moment.
Okay, I thought I actually heard that.
No, I kept saying, like,
okay.
I only mentioned that Super Tato Ba is attached to the mecha or the giant mech suit, and we'll get to that in a moment.
Happening, Darkon.
Okay, I legit thought he was talking about the mecha too. Okay, never
No,
mind.
that's in the figures section, which comes up next.
He's time traveling, guys.
We're time traveling already. Are we ready to move on to the action figure section?
Actually, we gotta ask Projekt what his thought on some of the watch, or at least the gimmicks of the holder or whatnot.
Oh, right, I forgot Projekt had thoughts.
I do? Apparently I do. Well, I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I'm a watch collector in real life, so yeah, it's going to hurt my wallet a lot. So we'll see how it goes.
He likes getting RoleXes with his Bandai toys.
Alright, on that note, we switch over to action figures, which is usually where I die in Kamen Rider. Starting off, we're going to take a look at the thing we keep hinting at. Time Majin. Time Majin is a giant robot mech suit for a Kamen Rider, and it is probably one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and honestly is more interesting than any of the Lupin Ranger, Panther Ranger mecha for this same quarter, so...
Yo, if this gets a suit, if this gets a mini plot, I'm gonna be hyped.
I might be with you on that. So, Deluxe Time Majin Go! This thing is kind of insane. It's 5980 yen, which, in comparison to previous giant, stupid, huge vehicles of the past, not too bad. It's actually around the same price as the Suica arms, which I found interesting. This thing is a massive 13.5 inches tall, which means it's really big, and this thing's going to be the worst thing ever to ship. Just stating it. It has a time machine mode where it looks basically like it's laying down. It kind of reminds me of Kamen Rider Axel's bike mode. So there's that. And it does transform into a giant robot form and can hold Rider Kick series figures. We'll talk about those in a second. Now, Time Majin does include the O's Ride Watch, which is so evil on Bandai's part because they know people want O's. And here we are.
Don't forget that Ranger theory.
It'll also be able
because
to
of
be
the time
used.
travel.
What was that?
Don't forget the Ranger theory, because since it does look like it's based on Super Tato Ba, there's time travel involved.
Very possible. Also, you can use the Geo Ride Watch or any of the other Ride Watches. For example, it shows the X-8 Ride Watch with a weapon from the X-8 armor. Speaking of which, Rider Kicks figure is a fantastic name for a line, I'll tell you that much. They are the basic figures for Kamen Rider. This is the new series of them. Now, however, we have something different. Now, I noticed that recently Rider budget figures have been getting up and up in price to the point where it's like, well, why don't you just buy a Figuart? So the Rider Kicks figures will be at a new lower price of 2,000 yen, which is awesome. Now, the simpler design on Geo definitely makes that work. No paint on the weapons as usual. Belts are unpainted as usual. Articulation looks pretty good on these. Fairly good range. The base lineup will have Geo and Gates, and the gimmick will be that you can buy separate ride armors for each rider. But they do show that in the photos here that you will be able to use. And this is where we get some interesting stuff we'll talk about more in a bit. But the build armor will be able to be used on Geo and Gates, but it will look differently, whereas one has white accents and one has black. How exactly that all works out is another story entirely, one that's really not clear yet. But the armors will be 1,800 yen, while Geo and Gates will be 2,000 yen.
Hold on, I think I have something to fill you in on. I tried to zoom it in on as best as I can, and I think is that the hinge joints on the armors are made to be omnidirectional, so it's just you switch it back and forth. So it's just the back side and front side, like it's two-faced, like one half.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes.
One half's white, one half's black.
Looking at this, that looks to be what it is. I agree. So the armors are 1,800 yen. Work for both Geo and Gates, which also means we're probably going to see those in the show get swapped around, which would make a lot of sense. We also do see the deluxe Ride Striker, which is the rider machine bike for the year. It can be used for either Geo or Gates. It has a ride watch mode and works with the Jiku driver. Now, this is the interesting part. The actual scans say that this works with the Jiku driver as opposed to the buddy gadgets. I think the buddy gadgets probably won't be used on the Jiku driver, but this definitely will, probably to summon the bike in series. It does display the words ride across the Jiku driver. Moving over to one more scan to the right, we're going to have a look at some of the ride armors. For example, we have the Ghost, which can, all these can be used on both. We have Ghost, Exade, Forze, Oz, and Decade, which gives us a really good look at those armors. I think, let's see, Build, Ghost, and Exade are in September. Then we have, let's see, Build, Ghost, Exade in September. We have Forze and Oz in October. And then in November, we have, do we have any in November? Oh, in November we have no armors in November. Then December we have Decade. So it looks like there's not a delay on the budget figures like there sometimes is, but we are actually getting those pretty consistently. So moving on to the next thing, this is the really fun part, is that the Rider Kicks figures are going to include a Legend Rider assortment. These are going to be figures of past riders in that same budgeted 2,000 yen price, and you basically will be able to collect past riders. I think is great because a lot of the older rider figures, they're bogged down by their own gimmicks, and they don't hold up after a certain point. So these will be released for 2,000 in each. On the lineup is Kamen Rider Build Rabbit Tank form, Kamen Rider Cross Z base form, Kamen Rider Grease, Kamen Rider Evolt, Kamen Rider Build Cross Z build form, and Kamen Rider Exade Action Gamer Level 2. So that's going to be like basically a bunch of stuff from Build, but the builds won't have any of the gimmick armor. They'll just be basic figures. So those actually pretty good. The build, I think, looks like a really solid figure. And then we also get a slight teaser of the Rider Hero series Gates and Geo. Now, on that extent, there are further details about Rider Hero figures, which aren't shown here, so we're not going to cover them too heavily, but just know that there is a lot coming up. But for now, let's discuss the Rider Kicks figures and the Time Machine. Is it Jiku Machine? I forgot the name already.
It's
Time
actually
Machine.
both. It's Jiku or Time Machine.
Time Machine.
Time Machine. Time Machine and the Rider Kicks figures, starting off with Wheelchair. Take it away.
Alright, so when I saw the Time Machine and then I saw it was like a weird bike thing, I'm kind of hoping that like the natural bike they have connects on top of it. You know what I'm saying? Like it connects together to cause the time travel ability. Like it integrates with it, and then it transforms into this giant robot. One thing that I do like is the fact that the robot's face is judged upon the actual face of the watches, so it makes it look cool, unique, and makes it an individual, actual, original kind of like robot that each of the faces, I guess, signify or show what power-ups and weapons that individual mode will have. So if you say, like, you put on Forza, you'll get Forza weapons, or if you put O's, you'll put O's weapons. Now, Visible Ninja, are you trying to say something, or are you just in pain?
Now you're telling me that these are going to be heads that are masters of things. So
yes, head on, dun 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 dun, head on,
head on.
How about this joke? That's way too easy.
I know it is.
I got an easier joke. Isn't this just Shurikenjin when you attach other Shurikens on there, like the Henshin ones?
This is that one was also too easy. But yeah, no, I really like the idea, and I love the fact that this actually has elbow articulation, shoulder articulation, and actually has knee articulation and hip articulation. This is probably the most articulated deluxe mecha a writer's ever had since Power Dizer. So yeah, everyone, this might be the toy of toys for this season. Like, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, I love the belt, but I really love this effing robot. Like, that's what I think is gonna end up happening.
As long as we can get past the shipping.
Yeah, I know, but don't worry, we'll just wait till it goes on Uber clearance at HLJ in spring.
or pops up on Amazon for super cheap if that happens.
But yeah, no, I'm really loving the mecha. I'm really loving the concept of the armors and how they look. I think right now my favorites are Forzes and O's, because the Forze just looks like it's a super fusion of regular base states, super rocket states, and cosmic states fused into one. And then O's is Super Tatoban. Who doesn't love Super Tatoba? And then
he has an actual tiger on his shoulder.
He also has a tiger on his shoulders. It's like, yo, dog, I wear a tiger skin. And it's like, what?
Exade has Gashats for shoulders, and Ghost has icons for shoulders.
Like,
I just noticed that.
Like, they have some cool elements about their armors, but honestly, like, I think Forze and O's and Decade really blew it out of the water. Because, I mean, like, the weird part is like, Exade's arms, while they're supposed to be hammers, they also look like they're supposed to be giant, like, defibrillators at the same time.
Medical theme, yay!
And then for the actual Legend Rider Kick figures, I'm actually astonished that they're considering redoing figures in this newer sculpt and mold and style, which makes me kind of hope that they do make at least a Decade figure and maybe a D-End. Because here's the thing that people don't realize, is the actual Decade figures have the same quality control issues as the Sochaku Henshins. Their knees and elbows get brittle and break apart. Because I went and looked at my Decade recently, and his legs were missing when I took him out of the box.
Ooh.
So yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah, everything since...
Is it bad that I'd rather buy Disc Cross Z, Grease, and Evolt instead of the Figuarts?
Well, I mean, it's more affordable. I mean, you either buy the Shoto figures or you buy these ones.
I mean, it's kind of funny because regular Cross Z and Grease are both exclusives for Figuarts, but here they are confident with the retail line. They're like, yeah, we can sell these. And it's like, well, why couldn't you sell the Figuarts at retail then?
Because they're assholes. Alright, so you can just pass it over to Visible Ninja now and what his thoughts are on the actual armors and the figures and the Majin.
Alright. So yeah, big Mr. Bike Man telling me Bike Nana. But yeah. So yeah, it's a giant robot that our boy literally goes into and pilots that can have different, rider faces.
I'm Majin Go!
Yay! Though, can he beat Dai Majin?
Can he be Majin, Time Majin Zer?
Good point, but yeah. Anyways, this is a hell of an interesting idea, and like Wheelchair said, this thing is looking pretty poseable, because yeah, It has elbow joints, ankle joints. Not so sure about hips, but yeah, actually, yeah, it looks like hip joints. So yeah, this actually looks like it might be the most worthwhile of like the big DX kind of, feature toys. So yeah, they get props there. And then of course getting into the actual like figure line, again, they get major props because each of the rider armors is very representative of that rider. Either like maybe a little like too much, but because I mean, hey, it's Ghost. What do you think of when you think Ghost? Oh, giant icons. What about X8? Giant Gashats. What about Forze? Giant rocket fists. And I will put out the O's final form debate continues on thanks to this rider armor. So, yeah. And then there's Decade, who's just Decade.
Yeah, I'm just gonna butt in, but that's literally like all I'm buying. I'm like, if I get these figures, I'm just gonna buy the last 3 that they showed right there. But like, I'm gonna just buy those armors, buy myself a Geo, and I'm out.
Boom, there you go. No, but yeah, and then there's Decade, who doesn't have like cards for like shoulders or something. Then he's literally just Decade, which again is very appropriate. But then the fact they're actually going to be redoing, not only doing guys who didn't really get like a basic figure. Yeah, they got like the gimmick figures, but yeah, hopefully Bandai kind of learned their lesson that, horribly obtrusive gimmicks don't usually go over too well, like particularly with like the, like in concept, the build, like figures were a good idea, but in practice, it just neutered articulation and.
Well, I'm kind of hoping they get to do O's and Forze. I mean, O's.
Yeah, me too.
O's and double.
Yeah, me too, because like again, like they're like good ideas in concept, but in reality, like I said, there was no waist or head articulation because they had to be neutered for the gimmick.
Actually,
and not to
Double
mention,
still maintained head articulation during his line.
That's true, he did.
They just lost weight.
Yeah, it's true. I was just, in this case, just talking about build, like in particular, since it's the most recent. But yeah, them just, remaking it as just like almost like the Ultra Action figures is just like, same level of like articulation and quality as the gimmick figures, but with no gimmicks. You know what I mean? And like it's great that they're doing like, Cross and Grease and Evil, and the fact they're going to be redoing older figures like in this kind of same quality and style is just hella interesting, and I applaud them quite furiously because it just makes sense. And then the Rider Hero series, I mean, they're vinyls, they're what you get every year. They're, very basic but very cheap representations. They maybe have like 3 points of articulation, but they are what they are. They're just, if you just want to stick one on like a shelf, they're perfect for that. And they're very nice and rubbery and it's oddly soothing sometimes.
But here's just a quick thing. So we know how you're early approaching, like, the difference between the suits. Do you want to go any further? The difference between, Geo and Gates or not?
Geo Gates? What? One has yellow eyes and the other has pink
No, you were
eyes.
talking about how the actual armors change when it's really just the colors,
Yeah, ultimately it's just the colors as well as the fact that Geo has the watch band where Gates apparently doesn't. So that was another kind of interesting thing, and obviously, like I said, the heads also change pretty radically because you got like the purple kanji, then the big yellow kanji, and the fact that each form's going to have different eyes, as well as other little touches like with Tatoba, how he doesn't have the logos, he actually has kanji for Taka, Tora, and Bata on him instead. So yeah, it's interesting how they're setting them apart, even though they're supposed to be kind of similar. But there you go.
Cool. Darkon, thoughts on figures?
First, the mecha, I guess it's pretty cool. It's coming a little bit too much of the Sentai territory, but at least they went ahead and put articulation like Sentai mecha, I'm just saying. It's cool that it has the different faces that you attach on top. It's actually a pretty cool gimmick, and it's not like it changes it a whole lot, but it is nice that it does change the aesthetic just enough because of the different heads on the actual ride watches. Before anything else, I am so glad they're actually releasing basic figures of these characters, because a lot of these figures end up becoming exclusive. It's going to be scary if it ends up becoming so popular they continue it even into future years. I mean, I doubt it's going to be
It'd be great.
Yeah,
It'd
no,
be great
like,
if they
I'm
did.
hoping they go back and start doing a lot of the older ones. Like, we get, like, you know, Kuga, Agito, Ryuki, because they're so Chaku Henshins are, like, deteriorating. They're just destroying. The only good Sochaku Henshin are the freaking Deno and Kiva ones.
Speaking of which, if Kiva's figure comes out before Kiva's Figuart and they actually release all the, like, just all the riders, even if they release a chunk of them via Premium Bandai, I'll be so, like, laughing my ass off about that, because...
Hey, if his Soto figure's already out, you can guarantee his Rider Kick figure will be out.
Yeah, so it's just kind of funny. It's like, in the end, it's like, oh, yeah, Bandai would be like, we finally released all the riders in one form. It may not be Figuart, but we made all of them now. But, in terms of the actual, the armor-up ones, I do like the last three as well. I think the XA one looks kind of stupid, to be perfectly honest, because of the giant hammer thing, and it makes it look like they became, like, level 1 mixed with level 2. It's like, they just went, like, halfway in both of them and just went all goofy with it more than usual. The Ghost one, I don't really like either, because I think it looks really bland. Like, compared to the other forms, I just think it looks kind of bland. It doesn't really help that Ghost has a really bland season, so I guess it doesn't match the same level of bland it is. But the other three forms are very nice, and they do remind me a lot of the Arms change forms that they did during Gaim, but obviously those are a little bit less streamlined, I think, than these. Especially this looks like Super Tatapa, that looks like Decayed, and that looks like a weird hybrid Forze. Like, it's got shoulder armor bits and all that. Obviously, Forze didn't have all those shoulder armor bits on his standard form, but it does look nice, and I'm glad they're actually doing the Rider Kick things. Like, that's basically the biggest thing I really like about it, because we're getting, like, cheap, affordable characters, especially for characters like the build characters and everything and all that. If they actually make Chronos next, too, I think that's going to be insane.
Oh, yeah, like they announced just the variations of Chronos with, like, his sword and shield and all that jazz.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very cool if they go with Chronos. The bike, I guess it looks okay, even though it reminds me a little bit too much of Fize's bike. Looks a little bit too much like that one. So it doesn't really do a whole lot for me. And I guess the change forms are cool, especially because they do have that, like Visible Ninja said, the whole no band on, what's his name? No band on Gates' suit. So that does make it quite different compared to the other two. But other than that, I think the figures are very nice. They're definitely doing a lot better than the last couple years. And as long as the articulation is still pretty on par to, like, what a basic figure is, not obtruse by gimmicks like we've seen, I think these will end up becoming actually possible more sellers than even the roleplay does.
Yeah, I think that it'd be very good for them to kind of, like, pursue this cheaper figure route, because I think Figuarts have gotten expensive, and that people I don't think people are buying Rider Figuarts as much anymore. So really having this more affordable alternative to Rider figures would really benefit, I think, the entire franchise. And it'd also be great for collectors. I know there's a lot of Riders I want, but their Figuarts are too expensive. Grease, Cross Z in particular. So I hope that this actually continues and can be something great. And if they're releasing this many in just the first quarter, I can only imagine what the next 3 quarters have for us. Let's move along.
You gotta pass it over to Projekt.
Is he even here?
Project's still here.
But I got no opinion on this one.
Okay, you got no opinion. Let's move along.
All right, our last batch of scans is probably some of the stuff we could probably talk most about. It is very similar to what we've been talking about, but these are scans that show closer pictures of the alternate forms for the riders. Now, a lot of these photos are actually the alternate pictures. So we see, for example, X8 on Gates and X8 on Geo, or Fize on Gates, Wizard on Gates. But something I do want to point out is that we do see a Kamen Rider Gem form for Gatesu, which there is no Gem Rider Watch in any of the catalogs from what we know.
It's only in the Gashapon catalog, actually.
Yeah, it's a Gashapon exclusive, but it's possibly going to show up in the show. I think that with the Gashapon catalog, we kind of learned that we're getting a lot of secondary writers and dark writers that way, and that would make a lot of sense for some Gashapon exclusives, but very possible we're going to see the Gem Rider watch in series. So just kind of run down, we got X-Aid, Gem, Fize, and Wizard for Gates, and X-Aid for Geo, and then on another page we see Build, Drive, Ghost, and Build, Drive, Ghost for Gates, and then X-Aid, Forze, Ghost, Decade, Double for Geo, and then we have a lineup. Someone did do an edit, I think this was a J Hero, of the main Heisei riders in order, I believe, is what we're looking at. So we got Kuga, Agito, Ryuki, Fize, Blade, Hibiki, Kabuto, Deno, Kiva, Decade, Double, O's, Forze, Wizard, Gaim, Drive, Ghost, X-Aid, Build. So yes, all of the main riders are coming out in the first quarter. Now, what this means for the future, I'm not really sure. My speculation is that for the second quarter of Geo's toys, we're possibly either going to see all secondary riders, or more likely, we're all going to see the Showa riders pop up. Because if they're knocking out all the main Heisei riders in the first quarter, we're going to be getting some more stuff beyond like the way Decade did it, where it was like, oh, here's 10 riders over the whole series. Well, I think we're going to be seeing a lot more from this toy line. So my final thoughts on Geo as a toy line, this is looking great. This has got me more interested than any past rider toy line in, I'd say, the last several years. I stopped buying after Wizard, and I only picked up a few things from Drive. Didn't touch anything since. So this kind of is catching me in a lot of ways, and I'm really looking forward to see how it plays in the show, how the toy line's going to work out. Not sure exactly if I'll be buying anything day one, but I will probably be getting the Ryuki Ride Watch and the Double Ride Watch and the Forza Ride Watch at the very least. But yeah, I'm super excited to see what we're going to get. And if they go Showa in quarter two, well, we know where I'm going to be money-wise, called totally broke due to this toy line. So I'll pass it over to you. We'll share thoughts on forms and final thoughts overall.
Okay, so when I first saw the Gem form, I actually thought it would just be specifically when Gates uses the X-Aid one, but when the Gashapon was out, I was like, oh crap, it's actually a significant alternate version. Overall, though, the ability to have a color palette swap, like we've seen with the figures, if you switch it backwards, it's, Gates' colors. If you switch forwards, it's Zio's color. So we have an idea of what they might look like, even in the show if we didn't get a full body picture of them like we had with these final images of just the upper torso and how some of the moderate changes are. For the assortment, I'm thinking that if this is mostly the first quarter, or even just the first half alone that we're getting all of the, stuff, I'm feeling that maybe, like you said, we might get secondary riders in later quarters, or even maybe they're going to be using either rider power-ups, like the main Heisei rider power-ups, because I don't know if they're going to try to integrate Showa into the main storyline, but they might just make it just integrated as deluxe toy releases, and just be like, oh, hey, here are just some toys you guys can buy that aren't going to be fully effective in the show per se, but they might be a part of, like, say, the net movies or the YouTube specials and whatnot, because this is going to be one of those ones with how can you effectively execute Showa with a series that's going to try to be encompassing 20 years of Heisei. But overall, like, I will look forward to it, and I'll probably get, Showa ride watches, as well as Heisei ride watches, but I'm overly just enamored with the style and what we're going with this year, because, like, I'm going to say the one that, like, not since Drive have I been, like, really, really invested at its launch. Like, Ghost, I was like, oh, I really like the theme, I really like the style of, like, the suit and the icons, but I was, like, very hesitant on if the show would turn out great. Like, I wanted to have a lot of hope, but then when we got X-Aid, I was like, oh, X-Aid looks weird, but I like the gimmick, but I don't think it's going to be good. Then it actually was good. And then Build, I was like, okay, so I like the suits, I'm skeptical on the gimmick, and it's been moderately an okay show. So it's like, maybe Zio will do something where, like, I really enjoyed, like, Gaim and Drive. But overall, I think it's going to turn out decent, at least upon its start, and we'll just have to see where it goes from there. So Visible Ninja, your last thoughts, I guess, on on the show.
Yo, alright. Really, like, with the ride armors, like, other than the ones we've kind of already talked about, like, some of them, again, are just fire, like the guy one literally has like his entire like face on his chest, which is kind of goofy, and then Fize and Wizard actually look pretty freaking awesome. But yeah, as a whole with like Showa ride watches and stuff, it's not going to surprise me. Like I said, we're getting secondaries, Dark Riders, Showa around the corner. Wouldn't surprise me terribly much. And then you start getting into the dark realm of
Dad, what is
the
Rapper
of
Boy?
the alternate forms and power-ups, which I'm sure might be forthcoming since ride watches. But I will say just everything has me very interested in how everything is going to turn out. I mean, since it is Decade 2.0 essentially, it's going to be a hell of a climb for collectors, because there's going to be probably like a crap ton of stuff to get, like not only like drivers, ride watches, maybe not necessarily weapons, but just so many ride watches, and not to mention both the gimmick figures for the series, as well as this new like basic line as well. So, oh Lord, it's gonna be insane, and it's tempting. And if I wasn't broke AF at the moment, I might be tempted to go in. I might have to pick up maybe a couple things later, like some of the Fize stuff, because Fize is my boy, but and a couple other guys are my boy too. But you know what, and we'll see where things go. And you know what, I'm actually really looking forward to seeing what happens. And or people crying that their wallets are empty because they bought everything.
Yeah, that's gonna be me, I think. Darkon, thoughts on forms and final thoughts overall.
I think as a whole, this particular line is going to be very interesting. They're definitely kind of thinking out of the box while still technically being in the box. It's not like they went so out that it doesn't make any sense. They're still doing what they usually do when it comes to marketing and gimmicks and so on, but they are trying to think a little bit differently this time around. I think that's really cool. I do like the fact that there is a way for that either form can really, like either rider can even use the form, so it's not like one is just locked onto a specific rider, so it's nice that they can actually mix and match, so that's pretty cool. It does look like it's going to be an extremely expensive season, not just for marketing, but in terms of like suits in general and everything. Like for Toei as prop level, I think it's going to be a very expensive season because of all the craziness that's happening here. I think a lot of these are probably just being like CG'd over really than anything else, because making every single different type of suit over and over again I think will be extremely expensive, even for an anniversary season. But I do admit that this line is going to be a total fail if they do not make Amazon's watches. They really need to do that.
At least Gashapon.
Yeah, something, just something for them.
And they got to make a GE watch too.
Get out of here. Go.
Yeah, no.
All right.
You know what?
Stay in the
Kamen
corner.
Rider stands for? It stands for get out.
All right, so Darkon, were you done, or were you still wrapping up?
Oh no, that's about
Okay.
it. I just think it's gonna be a good season. That's about
All
it.
right.
Yeah.
Throw it over to Projekt then. Final thoughts?
Oh, it's going to be an interesting season, because the fact that they show two riders right off the bat, we get to see all their forms already in advance. Pretty stoked. My wallet's going to cry, but we'll see how it plays out.
All right. So that brings us to our conclusion of this episode of the Soundcast, discussing Kamen Rider Gio's game.
Stop that. It's not Soundcast. It's not Soundcast.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? Because this feels like a Soundcast.
No, it's not. It's Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu.
Never heard of it.
It's
heard of it.
Los Ingobernables de Soundcast, yes.
No, it's not. Soundout. No, stop that.
So this-
Your show.
Am I on? I'm so confused.
But it's not. Alright, so since we wrapped up our discussion now, let's do our proper outro. I'm going to do a rundown real fast for those of you at home listening to this episode, so you know who we are and how to follow us. I'm Wheelchair21. You can follow me on YouTube and Twitter at Wheelchair21. You can check out Projekt RDM on Twitter at Projekt RDM. Visible Ninja, or Metal Ninja, is Metal Ninja 0 on YouTube as well as Twitter. You got Darkon633. And you also got Soundout 12. Now, technically, Visible Ninja on YouTube, though, is Metal Ninja Reviews, as he's trying to correct me. But whatever.
Metal Ninja Dojo.
Whatever. No one cares.
Yeah.
Just go watch his Gundam shows. You can find out. Links below,
Yeah.
usually. And anyways...
I'm with them, and that's fun.
Yeah. Anyways, this has been episode 56, and we will see you all next week with episode 57.
Hey, it's Wheelchair21, and thanks again for listening to an all-new episode of Los Ingobernables de Tokusatsu. If you want to hear more content or see more content from the Hero Club YouTube channel, we're going to need you to subscribe, like, comment with some feedback, and share this channel with a friend. We also would like you to check out our website, hero-club.com, and follow us on various social media outlets just by looking up Hero Club for Life, as well as the stores you see are where we shop. Anyways, thanks again, and we'll see you all next time.